Episode 5 does not look like a continuation. It feels like a turning point. After the emotional weight of the previous episodes, the preview suggests that something fundamental is shifting beneath the surface of the story. The fantasy that once protected Benedict is starting to crack, and this time there is no masquerade mask to hide behind. The tone is noticeably heavier, but not in a loud or dramatic way. It is quieter, more intimate, almost uncomfortable. And that is exactly what makes it powerful. We see Benedict in a state we are not used to. He is still charming, he is still the dreamer, but the ease that once defined him is slowly fading. His expressions carry hesitation now. There is doubt in the way he looks at Sophie, and even more doubt in the way he looks at himself. For the first time this season, it feels like he understands that wanting something is not the same as deserving it, and that realization alone could reshape everything. Sophie, on the other hand, seems more aware than ever. The preview makes it clear that she is no longer simply reacting to Benedict's emotions. She is thinking ahead, calculating, protecting herself. There is a distance in her gaze that was not there before, and it does not come from lack of love. It comes from fear. Because loving a Bridgerton might sound romantic, but for Sophie, it is dangerous. Every step closer to him could mean one step closer to losing the fragile stability she has built for herself. What makes this episode feel different is the power imbalance that is finally being acknowledged out loud. In earlier moments, their chemistry was enough to distract us. The longing, the tension, the slow burn. But now the preview suggests that chemistry is not enough anymore. Reality is entering the room, and it refuses to leave. Benedict may believe that love can solve everything, but Sophie knows that society does not work that way. Status matters, reputation matters, survival matters even more. There is also a noticeable shift in the way the Ton is observing them. Whispers seem louder, glances seem sharper. It is as if the world around them is starting to close in. And when the Ton begins to pay attention, secrets rarely stay hidden for long. The question is not whether they will be exposed. The question is when. The preview hints at a confrontation, not necessarily explosive, but deeply emotional. A conversation that feels overdue. A moment where both of them will have to say what they truly want. Not what sounds romantic, not what feels safe, but what is real. And reality, as we have learned this season, is rarely gentle. There is also an undercurrent of regret building beneath the surface. Benedict's earlier proposal still lingers like a shadow between them. That offer changed the dynamic forever. It revealed how differently they see love, power, and sacrifice. Even if he did not fully understand the weight of his words at the time, Sophie did, and she has not forgotten. Episode 5 seems ready to ask the question the season has been circling around from the very beginning. Can a man who lives in privilege truly understand the cost of survival? And more importantly, can he love someone without trying to reshape them into something that fits his world? Because if Benedict cannot see Sophie completely, not as a fantasy, not as a secret, but as a woman with scars, strength, and limits, then this story is not heading toward romance. It is heading toward heartbreak.
If episode 5 is about confrontation, then it is not just between Benedict and Sophie. It is between illusion and truth. The preview makes it very clear that the fantasy Benedict has been holding on to is no longer sustainable. For weeks, he has been chasing a feeling, a spark, a connection that began under candlelight and mystery. But now, the candles are gone, and what remains is daylight. Honest, exposing daylight. Benedict appears more restless than ever. There is urgency in the way he moves, in the way he speaks. It feels like he is running out of time, even if he cannot fully explain why. And that urgency tells us something important. He is afraid, not of society, not of scandal, but of losing Sophie before he truly understands her. For the first time, the possibility of her slipping away feels real to him. Sophie, however, is no longer standing still. The preview suggests she is starting to reclaim control over her narrative. She is not waiting to be chosen. She is deciding what she will and will not accept. And that quiet strength changes the dynamic completely. In earlier episodes, their tension was built on longing. Now it is built on boundaries. There is a subtle but powerful shift in their conversations. The softness is still there, but it is layered with something sharper. When Sophie looks at Benedict now, it is not with blind admiration. It is with expectation. She needs him to prove that his love is not selfish, that it does not come with conditions. And that is a test far more difficult than any grand romantic gesture. The preview also hints that Benedict is beginning to understand the consequences of his previous choices. His proposal, the one that divided the audience so strongly, continues to echo in this episode. It was not just a moment of weakness. It was a reflection of how deeply he is shaped by the world he claims to resist. Even the most romantic Bridgerton is still a man raised in privilege, and episode 5 seems determined to confront him with that truth. What makes this episode even more suspenseful is the sense that external pressure is building. The Ton is watching, rumors are spreading, and when whispers begin in Regency London, they rarely end quietly. If Sophie's position is exposed, it would not simply damage her reputation, it could destroy her entirely. That is the difference between her and Benedict. For him, scandal is uncomfortable. For her, it is cataclysmic. We also sense that Violet may begin to notice the emotional storm brewing beneath her son's composed exterior. A mother always sees more than she says, and if Violet starts asking questions, Benedict will be forced to confront feelings he has been trying to simplify into something romantic and poetic. But love, as this season keeps reminding us, is rarely simple. There is an almost suffocating intimacy in the preview moments between Benedict and Sophie. The space between them feels charged, not just with attraction, but with decision. Every look feels like it carries a choice. Move closer or step back. Speak honestly or protect yourself. Trust or retreat. And the most dangerous part is that both of them know they cannot remain in this uncertain space much longer. Episode 5 seems to be building toward a line that cannot be taken back. A confession, a refusal, a truth spoken too late. Something that will either bind them together more tightly than ever or tear them apart before they even have the chance to truly begin. Because at this point, love is no longer the only thing at stake. Identity is, pride is, survival is. And if Sophie is finally ready to choose herself over a dream, will Benedict be brave enough to choose her over her world?
If the preview is hinting at anything clearly, it is this. Episode 5 will not allow secrets to stay comfortable. The emotional tension we have been feeling since the masquerade is reaching a point where something has to break. And when something breaks in Bridgerton, it is never small. It changes the direction of the entire story. Benedict is no longer chasing a fantasy version of Sophie. In this episode, he appears desperate to understand the real woman standing in front of him. But understanding someone like Sophie requires more than passion. It requires humility. And humility does not come easily to someone who has never had to fight for survival. The preview shows him leaning in emotionally, asking questions he should have asked long ago. Yet the problem is not curiosity. The problem is timing. Because Sophie has already learned the lesson Benedict is just beginning to face. Love without security is a luxury she cannot afford. Every glance she gives him now feels layered with caution. She is not rejecting him, she is protecting herself, and that difference is painful to watch. There is also a sense that this episode will finally address the imbalance that has been quietly sitting between them. Benedict can offer feelings, he can offer poetry, he can even offer rebellion. But can he offer respect in a world that does not see Sophie as his equal? That is the real test. Romance is easy in private. Equality must survive in public. The preview hints at a scene where emotions run dangerously close to the surface. Voices are not raised, but they are heavier, slower, deliberate. It feels like both of them are choosing their words carefully because they know one wrong sentence could end everything. And in stories like this, it is rarely the loud arguments that cause damage, it is the quiet truths. What makes this even more intense is the possibility of exposure. The Ton has always been watching the Bridgertons, but this time the attention feels sharper. There are subtle signs that whispers are growing stronger. A glance held too long, a conversation cut short, a door that closes too quickly. Episode 5 seems ready to show us that secrets